What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my main man, Steven Thompson, and friend to the show, weekly guest, my man, Nick Martin. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. It is a gloomy, I want to say good, but it's not. It's rainy. It stinks outside. It's stunk since the second I've woken up. This is fall. This is what we can expect until it starts snowing, and then it'll be sunny again come June, maybe the end of May. It'll be all right. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they're dealing with some injuries, but they're heading to LA with the chance to continue this and kind of build a winning streak against the 3-3 Los Angeles Rams in Week 7. We'll talk about the injuries. We'll dive into what the offense can improve on and maybe some positions they can make some changes at, our keys to victory, and as always, our picks for Week 7, Pittsburgh Steelers versus Los Angeles Rams. Steven, I'll start with you. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling good. A little jealous of the Steelers who get to ditch this weather and head out to LA, but excited to have them back on the field and get to talk about some real football again.
Yeah, I agree. Ice Cube is playing at halftime. That's two games. That's 2 games this season where I've told myself, nah, I don't want to fly. I'm gonna hang back. I missed Lil Wayne and Ice Cube. I'm definitely pissed.
0 for 2.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into it. It's been very upsetting. Very upsetting. Nick, my man, how we feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling about as good as you can feel, considering we're about to watch Matt Canada's offense again this week. But I'm always looking forward to watching the defense make some plays and keep this game within a relative winning distance, because man, they sure do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to this team nowadays.
Yeah, 100%. I was talking with Mason Cole and Jim Wexel, who we'll talk about here in a second. And Wex asks, he goes, "Did you have success stories, horror stories against Aaron Donald?" And Mason Cole just laughed. He goes, "No, I just have horror stories. It's Aaron Donald." Yeah, that's probably right. The defense hopefully comes through and produces another game. I expect to see a lot of Joey Porter Jr. in this one. I think Patrick Peterson said more than once that he expects to see a lot of Joey Porter Jr. in this one, but we will start with a major defensive injury. TJ Watt did not practice on Thursday because of a heel injury. I do not know the severity of it as of right now. It kind of came as a surprise. Nobody even realized he was out there. I will say that I saw TJ walking around the locker room afterwards, and he was just chilling in a hoodie and a sweatshirt, looked totally fine. I feel like typically when guys are dealing with something serious, they try to avoid the locker room. They don't want to be in there when the media's in there just because they understand what comes with that. They understand anything could be reported, so they try to clear out of there. This one, I don't think anybody noticed. He wasn't on the field, and then we saw him in the locker room, which in my opinion could be a good sign, but we'll know more before Sunday. Either way, if he does not play, meanwhile, Nick Herbig, dealing with a groin injury, has been limited all week, so you don't know the status of him. How significant of a loss could this be to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Nick, we'll start with you. Are you optimistic for TJ? And if he doesn't play, how much faith do you have in Marcus Golden?
When it comes to TJ's injury, I'm not too concerned because this is just a new thing that popped up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Unlike Pat Freiermuth, who we'll get to, but when we talk about, the type of impact that TJ Watt brings, like, he's that guy consistently around the ball, consistently making the game-winning strip sack. Like, he is that player. That's the type of guy that they need to win a game like this against the Rams, who are a respectably good football team in many aspects, especially with their young players, and of course their veteran quarterback Matthew Stafford, who I always love watching his game. And but yes, they need TJ Watt, absolutely. And if they don't have him, Marcus Golden, the thing, unlike past third edge rushers that they've had behind TJ Watt, is they have a guy who can not only be serviceable against the run in Marcus Golden and be a decent enough pass rusher, they also have that change of pace guy in Nick Herbig if he can play. Yes, but also I feel okay about him. I think this is going to end up being a whole nothing burger, but I've been wrong before.
Yeah, I mean, we all have. I'm wrong pretty much every week on this show, so
I've never. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Man.
That's because you let me be wrong, and you're just like, yeah, no, you could say
Yeah, you
that.
should try. You should try it more often. It's a good strategy.
Yeah, I will. I will actually move forward. Yeah, I don't know how nervous I am about TJ. Stephen, I'll ask the same question to you. How much faith you got in Marcus Golden? Bigger question here. Okay, TJ does not play. 8 sacks on the season, 22.5 sacks for the record. Pat McAfee promised $500,000. So I don't know. For TJ, that's nothing. For me, I'm walking out there 1 foot. I don't care. I'm playing a game for $500,000 to a charity. You think that he, if he doesn't play, you think he's still on pace to break the record here?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think he's gonna. Honestly, he might like smoke the record. I think he's really. I think it's not gonna be a problem for him. Because there's gonna be another game where he gets like 3 or 4. Honestly,
Yeah.
like if we're being real, like he's gonna beat someone up. So I'm not worried about that at all. It is a little bit of a bummer for this injury to pop up this late in the week. We were on such a good pace. We were on such a good track with, Dan Moore coming back and Deontay coming back. Pat Freiermuth, we're going to talk about him in a minute, but he seemed like he was on his way back. Anthony McFarland, this team was slowly becoming more whole after a pretty rough start. And so this just kind of puts a damper on things. I think it's even more of, it's more concerning with Herbig's injury. That's just a huge hit to your depth, but
yeah.
I kind of do have a little bit of faith. I have faith in Marcus Golden. I think, this is the exact scenario that you go out and get a guy like Marcus Golden for, a veteran pass rusher, a guy who has experience, guy who is capable of stepping in as a starter if you need him, has experience there. So I think he's played well in spots. This will be a bigger challenge to do it for a full 4 quarters, assuming that TJ doesn't play. But I'm fairly confident that Marcus Golden will be fine, but obviously you lose some game-changing playmaking ability when TJ's not out.
Yeah, it's as hard as it gets to replace TJ Watt, but having Alex Highsmith on the other side certainly helps. Marcus Golden, huge upgrade over a guy like Malik Reed, Jameer Jones, Derek Tushka. I mean, the list has been rough and long and miserable, but they're at a point now where you feel confident in it. Some guys who, there were a lot of people in my DMs throughout the summer asking me, hey, what's your thoughts on David Perales? Is he going to be a guy? Is he a name to watch? Is he going to make this roster? Ended up on the practice squad. Could be a guy that gets a call up this weekend. That would be, I think, exciting to some guys out there. I don't even know what to expect from him, but it would be a good opportunity for an undrafted guy who had a pretty impressive college career. The more concerning injury as of right now is tight end Pat Freiermuth, who was limited in practice on Thursday after being a full participant throughout the week because of a hamstring injury that kept him out of week 5, and then obviously the bye week. He's I want to say it was a setback. I don't know for certain what happened, but at this point it's a big question mark whether or not he plays. Jim Wexell of 247 Sports said that he's not very confident in Pat's status for Sunday's game. That could be concerning. Nick, your thoughts if Pat can't go? How confident are you in Connor Hayward, Darnell Washington? How big of a blow is this to the Steelers offense?
I think if the tight end was used more in the passing game, this would be a bit more concerning. But yeah. I like Connor Hayward's ability to be able to step up in the receiving game. And then obviously Darnell Washington can do quite a bit as a blocker.
Yeah.
I would like to almost limit him, though, more out of the receiving game, because aside from being able to stretch the seam, which he can do, he can't really break down and, be able to, be able to manipulate defensive backs on crossing routes or even stopping routes. That's not his game. But we see the aspect of his blocking, and that's absolutely something, that definitely helps to have, especially with Connor Hayward just being a good enough receiver as a tight end. So I'm not too worried about it, but I do think that not having Pat Freiermuth, no matter who you have, it still sucks because, the injury, you never like seeing a hamstring reoccur during the week leading of practice, because that usually means a pretty bad setback in the overall terms. And I respect Jim Wexell, and he probably has very accurate sources on this. So I would be a little bit concerned on his availability this week.
I agree. I look at. I walked past Pat in the locker room yesterday. I said, "Yo, what's good, dog?" He said, "What's up, dude?" And that was it. We gave a little fist bump, kept going. I thought that was enough for me to know, hey, we're going to be fine. You would let me know if you're not going to play on Sunday. Apparently, I misinterpreted the conversation. I should have more information by Sunday. I think that I would say it's probably going to be a game time decision, something that at this point we don't really know, but could be a big loss. Steven, your thoughts? Darnell Washington's a blocker. Connor Hayward, in Pat's last game out, he catches 3 receptions, 23 yards. Serviceable? Is it a guy that, do you have enough confidence in Connor Hayward at this point to say that it's not such a significant step down for the offense?
Yeah, and I think mostly because of the point that Nick made, which I thought was a good one, is that tight end's not been a super huge part of the passing offense so far.
No.
Not really at all. So I'm not super concerned in that sense. Like in the short term, I think Connor Hayward can give you what you need from the tight ends in the passing game. And then obviously Darnell Washington is the best blocker on the team, so you can fill in that way. It makes you a little bit more predictable, but I don't know. I think it'll be fine. I don't think it'll have a major impact on this game. I'm just a little bit more concerned about the long-term effects of a hamstring injury for Pat Freiermuth and a setback in that sense, because I don't think it's the type of thing where you could roll out Connor Hayward and Darnell Washington for a whole season as your quote unquote starting tight ends and feel really comfortable about that and feel like you're in a good spot to compete down the stretch of the season. But for one game, I think they can get away with it, and I think it'll be fine. You just obviously think about the long-term effects of it.
Yeah, I think it's a blow to the development of the offense. Obviously, if you want Kenny and everybody to take a step forward and continue to gradually grow, which I expect, you know what I mean? The Pittsburgh Steelers are an 18-hole golf team, I would say, and they're about to hit the back 9, which is when they play their best football, their best golf. I don't want to see it affect anything long term. I think it does hurt the offense as a whole, but for right now, short term, not super concerned about the injury. Kind of stinks that Pat Freiermuth has fallen into a spot in this offense where you're not super concerned about it, but it's also good that they have the depth pieces that you do feel confident in. I want to turn the page here to this weekend. The Pittsburgh Steelers return from the bye week. Okay, plenty of question marks. I think we took the bye week and everybody kind of settled down. The tempers. Everybody was like, "All right, you beat Baltimore, cool. 3-2, 2-0 in the AFC North. Everything's fine. Let's relax. Nobody needs to be freaking out for 2 weeks before the Pittsburgh Steelers step foot on a football field again." Nick, you took that time to do a deep dive into the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, and you said, screw being calm. I'm going to name everything that is wrong with this offense, and we're going to talk about how we can improve it. You came up with a pretty good list, very good deep dive. You guys, everybody can check that out at allsteelers.com. If you could pinpoint 1, 2, couple of things that you would like the Pittsburgh Steelers offense to improve on, that you think that they could improve on, what would those things be, and how quickly, would you like to see them happen?
So I'll just break down a few things. One, I want to see better blocking personnel overall. Like a lot of times they're asking Allen Robinson to make these ridiculous blocks as a wide receiver, almost like a pseudo tight end. And a lot of times you see like the Rams, they use Puka Nacua. They'll slide him in motion, or they'll play him tight to the line, and then they'll have him block. I kind of want to see them use George Pickens a little bit more in that role, or maybe get Jalen Ward on the field and have him like get involved in that, because he is like one of the best like blockers on the team, period. Not just as a pass protector. He can get going if you just give him a runway. And that's what that's something that I think could work. They've been experimenting a little bit with Connor Hayward with that. They've had some big success, but it's definitely like overall like something like to look for. And in terms of blocking personnel, I'm also talking about like the offensive line. I think center is something that they should have addressed a long time ago, and they should have moved James Daniels. The moment he signed with this team, James Daniels should have been the center. That's what should have happened, because then Kevin Dotson could have played his normal position of right guard, and everything could have been just great. He could have still been on the team. Obviously, Kevin Dotson revenge game this week, so we're gonna talk a little bit about that.
Yes,
obviously, but I want to see what Nate Herbig has to offer at guard, because right now Mason Cole is not just a disaster in what he's being asked to do, of being unrealistic when it comes to being able to reach three techniques, because he just doesn't have the athleticism to do it. And for the Steelers, for some reason, just don't want their guards to stick just a little bit longer to their blocks and help him out. God forbid I'd ask them about that, but like at this point, move Daniels to center and have him do the freaky, unrealistic things that you're asking Mason Cole to do. But also, Mason Cole's been a disaster in pass protection. I like what he offers as a leadership position on this team, because, obviously he cares about the offense. He wants to see it improve. He was in meetings, with Najee Harris, like looking over the film. So obviously Mason Cole brings a very veteran leadership to the team, but he's a disaster on the playing field right now. Yeah. So I want to see that change. But also, I didn't touch on this in my article. Dan Moore was not great to start the season. And we saw Broderick Jones come in and play some very respectful football. There's obviously still going to be growing pains with him. I was one of the people who said Broderick Jones should sit and wait, let him develop, because, it's going to be a trial by fire. They've gotten past a lot of the bad part of the schedule at this point. I think they need to just let Broderick Jones play, because obviously, I don't know that they should keep playing Dan Moore at this point, because he's just been unable to fix his issues with speed to power when it comes to just being able to anchor down, and that is just a concerning aspect of his game. Yeah, definitely something to have to address. I didn't really touch on it in my article because I thought, hey, the Steelers are going to start Broderick Jones. They're just playing us. No, I guess I should have touched on that. But also one quick thing, Miami, they're breaking records when it comes to offensive football. They're using this thing called, what Kyle Shanahan calls a cheat motion. He calls it cheat. Mm-hmm. So basically you short fast motion your player laterally, and then you kind of just get him into a running start before as the snap goes off. And it really is actually really good for guys like Tyreek Hill, because this is why Kyle Shanahan calls it cheat, because it's getting those types of guys that running head start, that's just a terrifying ordeal. And they tried it once with Calvin Austin. It actually could have worked, but Kenny Pickett missed him right behind him and misplaced the ball. And then they were just it doesn't work. Let's throw it out.
It's done. It's done. I agree. Kenny, that play as a whole had some potential. And you could even ask, Alan Saunders of Steelers Now did a deep dive into that and said they're still working on it. Yeah, I'd like to see it in a game before we could talk about if it's actually happening. The Jaylen Warren thing, I'll start there. I was talking to Jaylen the other day. Anthony McFarland comes up behind me. Their lockers are next to each other. And he starts going, this guy, best blocker in the NFL. Best pass blocker. He starts yelling it. And I was just like, all right. And then Jaylen starts laughing. And I was like, all right. And he just kind of laughed and shook his head. He's like, I'm a little guy. You know what I mean? It's easy. And
just a little guy. I'm just a little guy.
Just a little guy. A little muscle hamster. I agree. That would be phenomenal. If you could put Jaylen Warren on just like you said, get him on a line, let him hit that crack block. Whew. It could be, remember Maurice Jones-Drew used to just light up guys. It was more in the backfield, but I could see Jaylen Warren doing the same thing. It'd be phenomenal. I said last week, let him play center. I said last week, speaking of center, that I do think it's time to move James Daniels to center and start Nate Herbig. I just think that at this point, it makes a lot of sense. And it's the most alarming. You have your argument, and it's a clear as day argument for Broderick Jones and Dan Moore, just because you invested in that guy. It's hard to say, oh, let's just keep our 14th overall pick on the bench. But at the same time, if you were going to pick the most alarming piece of your offensive line, it is center, and James Daniels is another option, which I think you have to utilize. But I agree. I think Mason Cole is exactly what they're looking for. In terms of leadership, I love Mason Cole. I think he's a great dude. Very fun to talk to as just a human being. Just a little insight. He does not care that Michigan got caught cheating. It was I'm pretty sure everybody does that. I was like, yeah, I'm also pretty sure everybody does that. But yeah, I think that is the biggest move. Steven, you were a somewhat proponent of starting Broderick Jones over Dan Moore moving forward. Your thoughts on that situation? Are they making the right move, putting Dan Moore back in there?
I think so. I don't know. It was a pretty small sample size for Broderick Jones and against. I mean, you think about it. Yeah, Dan Moore struggled this year, but he was the one who had to face, the Cleveland Browns and the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know if he was matched up on Will Anderson I can't remember if he was matched up on Will Anderson for that entire Texans game, but I think. I wouldn't hate to see Broderick in there, but I still think it's the right move to kind of bring him along a little slower. I think you shouldn't, kind of paint yourself into a corner and get caught up in the immediate future with while that might come at the risk of the long-term future. So I think Dan Moore has been good enough to hang on to that starting spot, and until he kind of becomes a disaster, I don't think you can really justify switching him out just yet, because I don't know. I think the only reason you switch out Dan Moore for Broderick Jones full time is if you know for certain that Broderick is an upgrade over Dan Moore and an upgrade consistently. I'm not sure Broderick can do that over the course of however many games we have left.
Yeah, I think we
11?
have 11 games left.
Yeah,
11 games left.
Yeah, and I'm just not sure that's reasonable to expect from Broderick for the remainder of the year. At the same time, I don't think you're concerned if Dan Moore goes down with an injury and you need Broderick to step in again. But
yeah,
it would just be a big ask for a guy who's this raw to be your starting left tackle down the stretch.
Nick, let me ask you: the Pittsburgh Steelers about to find themselves in maybe a year, maybe 2 years, in another situation where they're watching Dan Moore absolutely kill it at right tackle, because that's where he plays. That's where, he struggled in the summer to play there, but that's because he had to learn how to play left tackle in the NFL. Played right tackle in college. Should have been a right tackle in the NFL. They're going to find themselves in the same situation in 2 years where they're like, well, could have had that, but instead they paid Chooks, what was it, like $10 million a year, $20 million a year to be a, I guess, suitable right tackle. I don't want to get too harsh.
Generous.
Yeah.
So the big aspect of playing Dan Moore is the fact that he's a very cheap offensive tackle compared to what Chooks Okorafor is currently. Yes. Their play last year was very comparable. I would not say their play this year has been very comparable, because the big thing with Chooks is he's just better at anchoring down on power rushers, and that is just the biggest weakness of Dan Moore's game. He cannot anchor versus power, and I worry about that just being a defining fault in his game that just never gets better. So I'm not gonna say he can't go on to have success as right tackle, or maybe they're kicking themselves, but I will say that it's not like Kevin Dotson, where Kevin Dotson was playing on the wrong side and he was just accumulating bad penalties as opposed to being a bad blocker. And in this case, it's like there's too many faults in Dan Moore's game at this point to feel good about, potentially what he could become right now, as much as I want to be a believer in Dan Moore.
Yeah. We kind of see what you get in him. I agree with that one. Could be time, not going to be time. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they're going to stick with Dan Moore. That's what they do, man. Patrick Peterson's going to stay on the outside. Dan Moore is going to stay on the left side, and chances are Montravius Adams and whoever's going to start over Keanu Benton's going to happen all season long too, because that's just what the Pittsburgh Steelers love to do. What's up, guys? I have super exciting news to share with you. We have merchandise, from t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and hoodies, and plenty of designs, from Pickens to Pickett, Muth, Bleed Black and Gold, and of course, all of your All Steelers talk gear, all available at blackandgoldapparel.myspreadshop.com or on the store tab at our YouTube page. We cannot thank you guys enough. We would not be here without each and every one of you, and it feels awesome to be able to represent the AST brand and to spread that representation out to all of Steelers Nation. We know that you guys and us, we are one, and this has been one hell of a ride. Again, We cannot thank you guys enough. Check out everything at blackandgoldapparel.myspreadshop.com or on the YouTube page, or the store tab, on our YouTube page, to get all your AST gear and whatever t-shirts, sweatshirts, shorts, nutties, coffee mugs that you're thinking. Again, thank you guys. There are issues. There are concerns. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-2. The LA Rams 3-3, just barely beat Josh Dobbs, a struggling Josh Dobbs, and the Arizona Cardinals, who were without James Conner. Pushed it out. They're 3-3 as well. The Pittsburgh Steelers 2-0 in the AFC North. They need this one, especially if the Detroit Lions pull one out against the Baltimore Ravens, climb back into first place in the AFC North. I want to talk about keys to victory. Okay, Nick, we'll start with you. Your key to victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Week 7, LA Rams, your boy Puka Nacua, going out there, balling out as he does. Continue to ball out. Let me shout out to Puka Nacua for, after Cooper Kupp's return, still being Puka Nacua. Also, very much so enjoy saying that name right there. Your keys to victory for the Steelers in Week 7.
I think one of the keys to victory is playing Joey Porter Jr. because they're going to have to play Patrick Peterson in the slot and have to deal with Cooper Kupp. So Joey Porter can maybe deal with a guy like Puka Nacua. And the thing about Nakua's game is he's more of a physical presence as opposed to a guy who can win with speed. So Porter is the type of person who can shut that down, as well as Patrick Peterson. But if you don't play Patrick Peterson in the slot, who's going to be covering Cooper Kupp? And that really just concerns me in so many aspects. I don't want to have Minkah Fitzpatrick, as much as I love him, as much as he is an awesome player. I do not want him guarding him one-on-one, because I just don't think that's Minkah's strength. His strength is being able to play, in zone coverage and read the quarterback's eyes from the deep third, and they just haven't been able to do that because of their, the safety situation. But also, I think the Steelers need to get as much pressure as they can on Matthew Stafford. The reason the Rams have lost games at mainly to their best opponents, like the 49ers and stuff like that, and the Eagles, is because those teams get pressured. They get that interior pressure, and it's not necessarily that Stafford plays bad with pressure. It's more so, he might force a throw or he might take a bad sack in that situation. Yeah. And that's what you want to force Stafford to do, because if you just let him sit in the pocket and pick you off, I'm sorry, but the way he's playing this year, he will see every hole in this defense and he will shred you apart. You have got to make sure that guy is uncomfortable in the pocket, or they are just going to flat out get embarrassed. And that's a sad thing to say, because I think the Rams are a solid team. They're not a great team, but I think the Steelers are a all right team with major faults on offense that can't make up for the faults of the defense. So the defense has to play. They have to be the heavy lifter. So, but make the Rams rely on their run game. Even a guy like, Zach Evans, that they might have to end up relying on, because they've been they've been rotating a ton of backs. They've been bringing guys back like Darrell Henderson. So you could see a major committee there. And I'm not so sure that as much as they've gotten success out of Kyron Williams, that they'll have the same success running with those types of guys. I did like Zach Evans coming out of Ole Miss, formerly TCU, but he was a 6th round draft pick for a reason. Definitely a guy who needs to win himself in the favor of the coaching there. But overall, just the 3 points: play Joey Porter, get pressure, have them rely on their run game. That's how you win.
Yeah, I would agree. So heading into this week, the Rams running backs, they have totaled this season 4 carries. 4 running backs, 4 carries. 3 of them have 0 carries for 0 yards. So it could be a big one. I agree. You gotta get pressure on Matt Stafford. You gotta be able to shut down Cooper Kupp, man. That's such a challenge. But if you think Shannon Sullivan's going to be that guy, you're nuts. You're just what are you even thinking there? What are you at that point? And everybody wants to put blame on Austin. It's Mike Tomlin's defense. That's a straight. What are we doing, Mike? You're better than this. You're a defensive backs coach. Make the right call. Steven, your keys to victory, Week 7, Rams.
Well, I think it's going to be ball control. I think you look at the Rams, they are actually number 3 in time of possession for drive.
Yeah.
Steelers, number 32. I don't think that you can afford to give the Rams a bunch of shots at this defense, especially considering how it's a little banged up right now. If you're missing TJ Watt, that makes things even worse. The Steelers are going to really need to take a step forward with their run game. They're going to need to be able to control the clock and, like I said, just keep it out of the hands of this explosive offense. I think the more opportunities you give Cooper Kupp and Nakua to break some explosive plays, I think the worse off you're going to be. And I think if you can, if you're the Rams, you can kind of exploit the fact that, like you said, these running backs are inexperienced. They're not going to be able to run the same way as they were with Kyron Williams. Zach Evans, I think, is going to be the fantasy waiver wire pickup of the century, but that's more wishful thinking than anything else. So,
dude, shout out Zach Williams Zach Evans, because you best believe the kid got him.
Yeah.
Both weeks.
I did. I did too. I did too. I have Dameon Pierce and who's my other running back? Oh, I think Bijan Robinson is on a bye too. So it's the Zach Evans show this week. But
we have the same exact starting running backs, by the way.
my team is pretty bad, so that's not a good sign.
That's a rough starting running back duo this season. So,
but yeah, so I think controlling the clock, keeping the ball at the hands of this offense that can get explosive in the passing game is going to be really important. And yeah, if the Steelers can't do that, then I don't really have high hopes for their abilities to contain Cooper Kupp. So I think it's going to be all about just limiting those opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You can't 30 seconds. You can't give that much time to Matt Stafford. You just can't. You can't go 3 and out against Matt Stafford. You can't do that to Sean McVay. Like, you give them more. The more opportunities you give those two, the worse the outcome is going to be. It's not. This is Kyle Shanahan. This is a spitting image, Kyle Shanahan, and what he can do if you give him more opportunities. He's not going to waste them. This is not Vegas. This is not Baltimore where mistakes happen. This is, you're going to go 3 and out 5 times in a row? Cool. Chances are we score at least once in that time frame because you're not doing anything on offense.
Yeah, and it could get late early. Like if you're giving them those kind of opportunities, if you're not creating any kind of momentum on offense, could be a long day and it could get over quickly.
Yeah, I agree. All right, my key to victory, one guy, big guy, huge, need him.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett. It's got to be Kenny Pickett, man. It's been 6 weeks. Kenny Pickett's played his worst football. He's got no answers to why things are going wrong or why he has the yips or why he's only successful at the end of a game. He's got no answers to any of it. This week, you need answers. You don't need him to be perfect. But if this is not a game where you walk away and say, "Oh, Kenny was not an issue here," or Kenny took a step forward, I think you're approaching very dangerous territory of it's the middle of the season. We're heading into week 8. The Steelers, even if they win, if the Steelers beat the Rams and Kenny Pickett plays terrible, you're at a point where you're like, how long can you go? How good can this team be with a bad quarterback, and how concerning is that bad quarterback? The Pittsburgh Steelers are loyal to a fault. I get that. They're not going to give up on Kenny Pickett. If Dan Moore is the starting left tackle this week, that's the only example you need of how the Pittsburgh Steelers are loyal to a fault. You got to show something here for Kenny Pickett. You got to control the rock. You got to be able to make passes. You got to take advantage of opportunities when those opportunities present themselves. You could not run into situations we were talking before the show. Deontay Johnson in week 1 has a wide open touchdown on a slant route. Kenny Pickett throws it behind him at his knees. You can't have those. You have one of those that could be the game in this one for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's got to be Kenny Pickett. He doesn't have to have a great game. He's just got to take advantage of the opportunities that come his way. You got to see that this guy's capable of doing something this week. Otherwise, it's going to get ugly. And I think you're gonna leave this week and come back from the bye week and say, oh, okay, well, they're right back where they were, 2-3 weeks ago when they were losing to the Houston Texans.
He just has to get the ball out quick because with Aaron Donald, just he'll be breathing down his neck. And the thing about Kenny Pickett, he tends to run himself into pressure as pressure happens or when pressure isn't even there. So all he has to do is just get rid of the ball quickly. And I think the chances for success for this offense go through the roof.
Yes.
Absolutely through the roof by their standards, obviously. But like we saw a little bit of that against the Ravens. He was actually getting the ball out much quicker, and it was helping them. There was actually a moment where he thought about like reversing field and going like and like trying to exit back left of the pocket, and then he stops himself like right in that moment. He's like, oh wait, nope, never mind, I'm gonna come back, and then he throws it away, and I was like, yes, that's the right thing to do. Baby
that was
steps.
A beautiful throwaway. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. That's what they're missing. You know what I mean? Kenny Pickett puts them in tough situations all the time. You can't do that. You know what I mean? You already got so many things fighting against you as the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Your quarterback could not make things worse. I think that is that's as big as it gets. All right. It's Friday. Pittsburgh Steelers are back. I kind of missed this during the bye week, you know, like all you were able to do was make actual bets, and nobody wins on the bye week. And by nobody, I mean me. I do not win ever on the bye week. I think I've been doing this for 5 years. I think I'm 0 for 5. Never won a bet on the bye week. Don't know why. Your picks, Steven, we'll start with you. Pittsburgh Steelers, LA Rams, 4:05 on Sunday. For those of you out on the West Coast, it'll be 1 o'clock game. Your thoughts on, or your pick, your prediction, week 7.
Yeah, so last week I picked against the Steelers for the first time all season, and they actually won.
You did. Shout out. I took a lead on the season total last week. Pretty hyped about that one.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm doing this as kind of a reverse jinx thing, but I don't really feel good about this game. I think it's going to be 23-17 Rams. I think they're going to win. I think it's a close game all the way through. I think the Rams win on kind of not a last minute or last second score, but pretty late in the fourth. I think this game goes pretty deep into the fourth quarter in the second half. I don't know how optimistic I am about TJ. If he doesn't play, I certainly think that's way too much to overcome. If he's limited in really any capacity, I think that's a lot to overcome as well. I think Pittsburgh, gets off a bunch of yards, but kind of struggles in the red zone, and that's what ultimately costs them.
Yeah. You got a score here? Oh, you said 24-17?
23-17.
23-17.
Don't get that wrong.
I don't think 23-17 is a bad score. Like, I feel like, that's doable, and that's a situation the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they don't pull it out in the end there, you're upset, but you're like, it wasn't a blowout, I guess. Nick, what you're not that anybody should be happy about a loss. I feel like I should take all that back. No, but it's not a good score. It sucks. Go ahead, Nick, your prediction for this game.
I'm predicting the Rams to win 20-12.
Oh man, guys, what are we doing here?
Oh man, yeah. No, you're gonna have to pick the Steelers and make sure that you don't jinx them. But when it comes to the score, my whole thinking is I think what's gonna happen. Rams get off to a really quick start. Offense just jumbled out the gate as usual, and then the defense starts to step it up in the second half. They get a safety. The offense scores. They get a field goal as well off a
Nick's dropping safeties
off a turnover.
Okay.
They could keep it within one possession, but it could be a little bit too late for them by the time that ends up happening. But I'm going to say 20-12. Very untraditional score, but I think that's about right.
20-12. Okay. We got 23-16, 20-12. What's some scores going on here? Okay. Anybody who's taking the over on this game, you're nuts, because they're getting safeties. Okay. This is by no means, this is everything about the Pittsburgh Steelers, but at the same time, awful. Okay. 0 for 2 here. We're a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, people. You can't just bet against the Pittsburgh Steelers at 3 for 3 here. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say the Pittsburgh Steelers walk out of here victorious. Everything says that they won't, but the Rams, they struggled against the Cardinals. The Cardinals are playing everybody tough. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they're trying their hardest to play people tough. So I'm going to say this is one of those games. I think that it's real simple. I think as the season goes on, Matt Canada will begin to, kind of integrate himself back into what's going on and make this more of a week 1, week 4 type of offense, week 2 type of offense. But for this week, I think they went into the bye week. I think Najee Harris and Mason Cole and Jaylen Warren and everybody else sat everybody down and said, look it, okay, we're running the damn football because that's what we do. It's the only thing we do well. There's hats made out there. Bill Cowher, there should be a plaque somewhere in Pittsburgh that says run the damn ball because that is what the Pittsburgh Steelers do well. I expect them to do that just time and time again in this game. I expect anybody who's out there with Deontay Johnson and George Pickens and thinking, man, these are going to be my fantasy studs this week, you're wrong. It's not going to happen. Najee Harris, heavy dose of Jaylen Warren. I think this is a big, this is a big use a jumbo package type of game. I fully anticipate this to be a ground and pound football game for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's how they're going to win. I don't think it's going to be pretty at all, but I think they'll do enough. Cooper Kupp's obviously going to find the end zone. That's just what he does. I'm going to go, 2 touchdowns. That's a lot of freaking touchdowns for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I want to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go 17-14 Pittsburgh. And honestly, I think that they win on like a last minute drive here. Like I think Kenny puts it in the end zone right at the end there to somebody. I don't know how it happens, but I think that's what's going to happen. Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren, I don't know who it is, but somebody's going to hit the end zone for the first time this season. So joyous to them. But you're all welcome because when everybody's wrong, except for me, then we're going up 2-0 in the last 2 weeks. I'm feeling good about that one, but I'm not letting us walk out of here 0-3 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's just it's not happening. I'm going 17-14 Pittsburgh. With that, we're feeling good. We're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, and find all of our work at allsteelers.com. Make sure you go check out Nick's big film review on how the Pittsburgh Steelers can improve their offense. And as always, our pick coverage at InsideThePanthers.com. Enjoy, hopefully, my prediction to the game on Sunday as the Pittsburgh Steelers head to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. We will be back on Monday. Enjoy a gloomy but beautiful day in the Burgh. Peace.